All right, everybody. In this lecture, we're going to break down seizure disorders from a real clinical nursing perspective. We'll talk about what seizures actually are, why they happen, how we classify them, and most importantly, what nurses need to do during and after a seizure event. We're also going to cover high-yield assessment findings, seizure safety precautions, postictal care, and the differences between focal and generalized seizures. So let's start with the core definition. A seizure is essentially an electrical storm in the brain. Normally, neurons communicate in organized electrical patterns, but during a seizure, there's an excessive, uncontrolled discharge of cerebral neurons. And depending on where that electrical disturbance occurs, the patient may develop motor symptoms, sensory changes, autonomic symptoms, altered consciousness, or behavioral changes. Now, one seizure alone does not automatically mean epilepsy. Epilepsy is defined as more than one unprovoked seizure. That distinction matters clinically because some seizures are triggered by temporary problems like fever, hypoglycemia, alcohol withdrawal, or electrolyte imbalances, while epilepsy involves a recurrent tendency toward seizures. So here's the actual pathophysiology behind seizures. At the cellular level, nerve cells begin firing abnormally and uncontrollably. Instead of organized electrical communication, the neurons basically start overreacting and discharging repeatedly. As that electrical activity spreads, it disrupts normal brain function, either in one localized area or throughout both hemispheres of the brain. And then clinically, that's when we see the manifestations of a seizure. The patient may lose consciousness, develop jerking movements, sensory disturbances, behavioral changes, staring episodes, or autonomic symptoms, depending on which brain regions are involved. That's why seizures can look very different from patient to patient. The presentation depends heavily on where that abnormal electrical discharge is occurring. When we talk about seizure causes, there's really a wide range of possibilities. Some are structural, like brain tumors, strokes, or head injuries. Some are metabolic or systemic problems, such as hypoxemia, severe hypertension, or electrolyte imbalances. Others may be genetic, or triggered by things like fever, CNS infections, or drug and alcohol withdrawal. And clinically, one of the most important distinctions is whether the seizure was provoked or unprovoked. A provoked seizure happens because of an identifiable trigger, like hypoglycemia or alcohol withdrawal. An unprovoked seizure raises much more concern for epilepsy or an ongoing neurologic disorder. That's why identifying the underlying cause is such a major part of seizure workup and management. One of the most important ways we classify seizures is by where they begin in the brain. Focal seizures start in one localized area. Because they begin in a specific region, the symptoms depend on what part of the brain is involved. So a patient might have abnormal movements, sensory changes, strange smells, déjà vu, or altered awareness. Generalized seizures involve both hemispheres of the brain at the same time. These are the seizures we more commonly associate with widespread loss of consciousness and full body involvement. And sometimes, we simply don't have enough information initially, so the seizure may be classified as unknown onset until more data is available from the history, EEG, or clinical presentation. Now let's connect the classification to what you actually see clinically at the bedside. Generalized seizures usually involve widespread tonic-clonic movements, loss of consciousness, postictal confusion, and sometimes incontinence, or what's called the epileptic cry, right before the tonic phase begins. Focal seizures can look very different because the symptoms depend entirely on where the seizure starts in the brain. Some patients have motor symptoms, like jerking of one arm. Others may have sensory changes, staring, automatisms, strange smells, or behavioral changes. One important NCLEX point: awareness in focal seizures may be preserved or impaired. So not every seizure patient completely loses consciousness. When we evaluate seizures, we're trying to answer two major questions. What caused the seizure, and where in the brain did it start? Everything begins with a good history and physical assessment. What did the event look like? Was there loss of consciousness? Any aura, tongue biting, incontinence, or postictal confusion? EEG is one of the biggest diagnostic tools because it measures the brain's electrical activity and helps identify abnormal discharges. MRI is used to look for structural causes like tumors, strokes, or scarring. We also check labs because electrolyte imbalances, infection, hypoglycemia, or metabolic disturbances can trigger seizures. And in more complex cases, patients may need continuous EEG or video monitoring to help localize exactly where the seizure activity is occurring. When excessive cortical discharge causes loss of consciousness, the nursing priority immediately becomes airway protection. That's why we place the patient in a side-lying position to help reduce aspiration risk. When uncontrolled motor neuron firing produces tonic-clonic movements, we shift into injury prevention mode. Pad the side rails, protect the head, clear nearby objects, and never try to restrain the patient during the seizure. Autonomic nervous system involvement can also lead to excess salivation or incontinence, so suction equipment should always be readily available to maintain a patent airway. And one very important NCLEX safety point: never place anything in the patient's mouth during a seizure. When a seizure is actively happening, the priorities are safety, airway, and assessment. First, protect the patient from injury. Turn them to the side if possible. Maintain seizure precautions, and suction only if the airway becomes compromised. Keep the environment safe, and never try to forcefully restrain movements. At the same time, you're also observing and collecting important clinical data. Was there an aura beforehand? Where did the movements begin? What were the eyes doing? Was there head turning, automatisms, pupil changes, or incontinence? And remember, timing matters. One of the first things you should do is note exactly when the seizure started, because prolonged seizures can progress into status epilepticus, which becomes a medical emergency. Seizure precautions are all about protecting the airway and preventing injury before a seizure even happens. Padded side rails help reduce trauma during tonic-clonic activity. Suction equipment should always be set up and immediately available, because excess secretions can quickly compromise the airway. And if a seizure occurs, position the patient on their side as soon as safely possible to help prevent aspiration and maintain airway patency. Another important NCLEX reminder: keep the bed in the lowest position, remove hazardous objects nearby, and maintain oxygen and suction equipment at the bedside for high-risk patients. Postictal care is just as important as the seizure itself. First, document everything carefully. Record the duration, type of movements, loss of consciousness, incontinence, automatisms, and what the patient's condition looked like afterward. Then monitor closely for complications. Watch the airway. Assess for aspiration, injury, prolonged confusion, or additional seizure activity. And finally, support the patient. Many patients wake up confused, exhausted, embarrassed, or frightened. Reorient them calmly, provide reassurance, and maintain safety while their awareness gradually returns. Seizure disorders are ultimately disorders of abnormal electrical activity in the brain. But what matters most clinically is recognizing the presentation quickly and responding safely. Remember the major distinction. Focal seizures begin in one area of the brain, while generalized seizures involve both hemispheres. For nurses, priorities always center around safety, airway protection, observation, and accurate documentation. Sideline positioning, padded rails, suction readiness, and careful postictal monitoring can significantly reduce complications and improve outcomes. And finally, always think beyond the seizure itself. Identifying provoking factors such as metabolic imbalances, infection, head injury, or substance withdrawal is critical to preventing future episodes and guiding long-term management.